We hadn't done any news yet, had we? We had done no news whatsoever. It's Wednesday. It's a freaking Wednesday. I was in a funk. You guys cheer me up. It's wonderful. All right, phone lines open. Oh God. Oh God. Sappy wondering why we're so stupid. I don't know. Why are we so stupid? Did you ask me that just now? Yeah, Warlord cheered me up. I'm value-tained. I'm value-tained from the Polymarket Studios. I will sell naming rights to my studio. Who wants to be the Joni Ernst studio? Okay, anyway. Okay, let me get my shit back up here. Patrick Bet Freakin is actually a pretty cool name. Let's go live. Okay, yeah, I can get a little more high. Take two on the news. The Maga Mommy Studios, yes. Which one do you want? There's not one like just handy. Let me go find one. Soup said Smoky Boy, so. Oh, well, now, I have a cat story if you would like to hear it. As I was getting my groceries off of the porch, the little stray kitty that I think lives in the house next door, I think there's a whole colony of them that took over the house. But one of them's really friendly and comes up to me. I pet it all the time. She's really sweet. Well, as I'm grabbing my groceries to bring them in the house, that cat just walks her ass right on in here like it was nothing and goes right to eating out of Smokey and Sox's and Maynard's bowl. And I was like, wow, that takes some balls. And well, I thought she might be pregnant, but I guess now I've been here a couple of months and she hasn't gotten any bigger or anything. She's just fat. So she's well fed. Yeah, my children are neutered. So I think she's taken care of by, I think she's like a neighborhood cat. Because she's super fucking friendly. But she just walked. I am not neutered. Snip, snip, motherfuckers. Oh, absolutely, Soup. No, that's why she comes here. Because I feed her all the time. Because I'll usually hear Smokey at the door. I know when she's here. No, I go out and feed her. So I guess that's one of the reasons why she just felt comfortable coming on in. Because I feed her all the time. But Maynard didn't. Once Maynard realized what was going on, Maynard was right there in her face. I can't have another cat. I can't have 4 fucking cats. I can't have 4 fucking cats. Especially, I can't have a female with all my boys. That's weird. Like we're the man crew over here. Oh, fuck, a lot of things happened in the first 24 hours. We're gonna get to that here in just a little bit. Let's start with the Hughes fire.
And then we'll see where we go.
In LA, this is live shots. Oh God. It was at 3,000 acres just an hour or two ago.
The question and answer portion of this press conference. We will break out. There's PIOs from Los Angeles County, Angeles National will be around to answer your questions. Thank you all for coming.
So this one is spreading fast. Yeah, it's just under 10,000 acres right now.
First news conference we've had on the Hughes fire in the Castaic area. The good news out of this fire is that the 5 freeway is now going to reopen. As the sheriff said to the public, it had been closed for access for firefighters to be able to get their crews into the area. Also, protection to the public when it comes to smoke there on the freeway as that fire dropped to the south towards the 5 freeway. We do have still big concerns with red flag warnings extended till Friday, 10 a.m. And
wow.
Very big news here, 0 structures burned in this fire.
Oh, well, that's good.
Maroney, the LA County Fire Chief, he describes the Hughes fire as a, quote, difficult fire, but says we are getting the upper hand. So that was an optimistic outlook on the Hughes fire from the LA County Fire Chief. Yes, to your point, Christine, 0 structures reported damaged or destroyed. 9,400 plus acres burned so far since it broke out just before 11 a.m.
Drake, how does it feel to live through this?
Orders, 25,000 under warnings. Great news about the 5. I think that hits home the basic points.
If you're seeing the pink along the side, I do believe that is the
starting at 11 o'clock.
The flame retardant that they have dropped.
What they talked about is what.
So I assume they've tried to, like, contain it.
Attack.
CJ, thank you for the resub.
During this fire, also we know the winds were not as strong as the Palisades Altadena fire. That made a huge difference, and basically personnel
feels like a Wednesday.
Also able to make a difference. But as we heard there from the Chief Maroney, he said that with nightfall, the fire is laying down a bit. So with that 5 freeway opening, that told me they've made really good progress.
Yeah, over 400 firefighting personnel on scene as well. Okay, let's check in on the ground. Speaking of, with our Matthew Seedorf.
So cool. No structures damaged. It looks like they have it contained to a specific area.
So, I mean, like we've been saying, firefighters really got the upper hand. It seems like that air attack, that offensive, and the firefighters on the ground to really just put this thing in its place for the most part.
Put it in its place. Kicked its ass.
What we were looking at right now was on fire, and we saw helicopters making those drops. Now, I mean, you can see some hot spots essentially, but that's...
Oh, I'm sure it's not fun.
We've still been seeing...
It's horrifying. All the videos that we watched last week. Was it last week?
They're covering up hot spots.
Or has LA been on fire for 2 weeks?
We have the line.
It's been 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Behind us, there's some still here, but I was speaking with them. They were just talking about how crucial this corner is, and that's why they were going to attack it. Because
oh God, it's been 2 weeks of this.
Or go south towards Santa Clarita, so you can see possibly the line of firefighter vehicles out on this roadway right now, and this is kind of their line, their wall that they're trying to build as a defense, trying to prevent the spread. This is on Tapia Canyon Road. Just
once again, these are live shots.
And this is looking towards
just shy of 10,000 acres.
Well, and so far, again, it seems to be.
Well, I've been saying there's not really a fire season anymore. Yeah, technically it's not fire season. But LA doesn't really have a fire season anymore. It's just kind of, this is how this is life now. Meanwhile, a good portion of the United States receiving record snow. Now, these are not totals that you would normally think of as records, but you got to remember that the areas we're talking about never received snow. Some of these places have never had a snow warning before. This was their very first.
We start the day's other headlines with snow, and plenty of it. A massive winter storm has left record-breaking amounts across much of the Gulf Coast and the Carolinas.
If I get the sun to catch them, melt the rest of it off.
In North Carolina, they were digging out today as the storm finally moved offshore. At least 3 people have died across Georgia and Texas. The coastal city of Galveston saw a significant amount of snow for the first time in nearly 2 decades. New Orleans saw a record 10 inches of snow, smashing
Texas Power made it through this one.
1963. The NBA even had to postpone a game there. More than 2,000 flights have been canceled in and out of the U.S. today as airports begin to resume normal operations. In its wake, the snowstorm left frigid temperatures across large parts of the country. More than 60 million Americans today were under some form of cold weather alert. But forecasters say a slow return to more normal temperatures will bring some relief by the end of this week.
Thank God.
California is facing dangerous weather conditions as it battles.
Oh, we just did the fires, motherfucker. That's why I shouldn't use goddamn PBS. This dude was stranded. I believe this was at the Atlanta airport. Decided to call his mom for help.
At Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport tonight, where operations are getting back to normal after the winter storm brought things to a screeching halt yesterday. Thousands of passengers waited in security lines for hours because of a TSA staffing shortage caused by the icy road. Airlines canceled more than 400 flights today, and twice that many were delayed. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor is there tonight. Angelique, are things improving at the moment?
Absolutely, Russ. I am delighted to report things are much improved this evening here at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Wait times are manageable, but that was not the case this morning.
I got on my flight 6 in the morning. We landed at 9.
For Makai Mitchell, that routine flight from Boston to Atlanta turned into a 6+ hour ordeal with Frontier Airlines. He was aware of our winter weather, but there is no way he could have prepared for what happened.
I'm thinking we're going to pull into a gate, and we're told that all gates are full. And we was basically told that they were short-staffed and that we will get an update when our pilot was updated.
But Mitchell said they waited on the tarmac and that update never came.
An hour went by and he didn't have no update. And then 2 hours went by and he didn't have no update. So I called my mom.
Mom called Frontier Airlines, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, 911, and even Fox 5.
What?
Say the winter storm as Makai and the other passengers kept sitting on the tarmac.
They said it was a mixture of both. They said they were short-staffed because the roads, so a lot of people just didn't show up to work because the roads in the morning, they were icy. So a lot of people just didn't show up to work, but also they said some of the planes just were already there at the gates when all this stuff happened, so they were cold, not warmed up. They had to be told to be moved.
Makai says he was cramped on the flight, his phone died, and he had no food. Finally, 3+ hours later, a breakthrough.
My mom ended up getting an update of when we was going to get a gate before the pilot did, which it was a mess. It was a mess.
Now, Makai clearly has a
reporter laughing at him.
He is resting comfortably tonight in his Gwinnett County home. Reporting live from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport.
Ha ha, you had to wait on the tarmac for hours without any information. Ha ha, ha ha. What, you don't get fucking airline cancellations in Britain? Fox News exclusive from Peter Ducey. The text of the letter. This is a tradition. Presidents leave letters for each other. I don't think Trump left one for Biden. Can anybody verify that for me? I don't remember. I don't think he did. But Biden left one for Trump. And we get to find out what was in it. What Biden say to him.
Alert, and a pretty historic one at that. President Trump has revealed the context of the letter that former President Biden left to him. This is a Fox News exclusive, and let me put this into perspective. There have only been 7 presidents that left a letter to their predecessors, 6 who left a letter to the opposite political party. And Biden was just the 3rd to have to pen a letter to someone who was a political opponent, in this case, a former political opponent. This is history, and we at Fox News have the content of this letter. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor.
I didn't think he did. And she didn't mention that when she was running down the numbers,
Jerry
did she?
Willis, Fox Business correspondent, and Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson podcast and co-host of Verdict with Ted Cruz podcasts. Well, we begin.
All right, it is time to play Orgy Couch. What do you guys think? Would you accept a seat on the Orgy Couch? Kaylee
My
McEnany,
co-host Harris Faulkner. Also
Princess
joining
Kimberly,
us,
Byronic,
Casoni, Fox
Harris
Business
Faulkner.
anchor and host of American Dream Home
Okay, she's really cute.
on Fox Business. Jerry Willis, Fox Business correspondent, and Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben
I mean,
Ferguson
she can be my GOP mommy, I guess.
Verdict with Ted Cruz.
I've been over here.
Well, we begin with Peter Doocy. He's live on the White House lawn. And Peter, this is only the third time in our history we have a letter exactly like this one. What does it say?
And Kaylee, we saw the other night on Monday, just a few minutes after President Trump returned to the Oval Office, I asked him if the president left him a letter. He hadn't checked yet. He opened up the drawer. We were only able to see the outside of the envelope that said 47. We can report now, for the first time anywhere in the world, this history-making text of what it said on the inside. The letterhead was of Joseph R. Biden Jr. It said President of the United States. And his cursive handwriting that I reviewed was difficult to read at times, but this is what I got from the letter. Let's read it together. Dear President Trump, as I take leave of this sacred office, I wish you and your family all the best in the next 4 years. The American people and people around the world look to this house for steadiness in the inevitable storms of history. And my prayer is that in the coming years will be a time of prosperity, peace, and grace for our nation. May God bless you and guide you as he has blessed and guided our beloved country since our founding. Joe Biden, 1/2025. And that is it. I got a call that President Trump was ready to share the contents of the letter. We heard him last night describe it as inspirational. And that is, we can confirm the president's assessment. All right. It is an inspirational, forward-looking well-wish, and quite possibly the only time that they will exchange letters.
He seems upset about that.
Peter, so I'm interested to know, was that the entirety of the letter? I'm looking right now on my phone at images of past letters, and they tend to be a little longer, 3, sometimes 4 paragraphs, going into detail. That's a very gracious letter that Biden left, but was that the entirety of it?
That was the entirety of the letter, yes. Handwritten by President Biden on his personal stationery. Just
Well, I'm into group stuff, so as many as will have me.
one side of one page.
As many that can share me.
For you.
Good evening, Michael.
This comes, and I think this is important context for our viewers. He penned
It
this
can be all of them on that couch if they want.
line of Biden penning this letter. As I understand, it was on the day of the inauguration. So he pens this letter, and he rides off with President Trump, and then he pardons members of his family.
Moggs, good evening.
President Trump would have found out about it in the aftermath of his speech. So it's a gracious letter, but it comes on the heels of maybe an acrimonious decision intended to be shielded.
You know, clinically, Kaylee is the like least of the women. Even the one that looked like a preacher's wife at the end. Like, I'd take her over Kaylee McEnany.
From the current president.
And I don't know the exact timeline.
And what is with that outfit? It's so pink.
He used the same pen to sign the pardons and then write this note to President Trump.
Wow, Peter, thank you very much. That is history that you just made. Very interesting.
It is history. Yep.
Great. Well, let's bring in Brett.
Is it just my monitor, or is it just insanely pink? Fuzzy Simba, good evening.
Air, chief political anchor and of Special Report, anchor and executive editor as well. Brett, it's history in the making.
Holidays.
You know, there will be inevitable critics who say, you know, this was a private letter. Biden said that he would not share the contents of Trump's letter.
Aggressively pink.
Privacy issues he had on his mind. But I'm looking at 5 letters right here on my phone from past presidents that did get out into the public because it's history. People are interested, and these tend to be gracious letters.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kelly. It is history.
Cheers.
Seeing it real time as we have since
Live, laugh, Lucifer.
Fast and furious, kind of drinking from the fire hose of history. He finds the letter.
Drinking from the fire hose of history.
Thanks to Pete.
What? What kind of a...
Peter's questioning and then gives the letter to Peter to bring forward. I think on both fronts, it's very magnanimous.
Trump didn't leave a letter.
This is what we talked about on inauguration.
You guys are all like, fuck this story. No, we want to hear real news. Okay, fine. I'm a man of the people. I'll move on. It was like 15 minutes of bullshit. But I wanted to hear more from the one cute girl in the green outfit. Trump asked earlier today about the situation in Ukraine.
You called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently?
The war should have never started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. But that couldn't happen because the election was rigged.
I was about to say that ended abruptly, but I guess it stutter stepped. Mike Johnson earlier today held a press conference. The House is launching an investigation into the investigation of January 6th. Johnson also asked about the pardons Donald Trump issued for January 6th defendants.
President Trump is defending his decision to grant clemency to roughly 1,500 people who were convicted in connection to the January 6th insurrection in Washington. More rioters will be released from prison today as a result of the pardons. Included in the list of defendants who are being released is Rachel Powell in 2023. She was found guilty of pushing a barricade into police and breaching a window. Ex-Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio has also been released from prison and is returning home to Miami today. Tarrio was convicted on multiple charges, including seditious conspiracy, and sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in the riots. Another leader of a far-right militant group was also released from prison Tuesday. Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the far-right group The Oath Keepers, was also convicted on several charges, including seditious conspiracy, and sentenced to 18 years behind bars. House Speaker Mike Johnson voiced his support for the president's decision earlier.
What was made clear all along is that peaceful protests and people who engage in that should never be punished. There was a weaponization of the Justice Department. There was a weaponization of the events. The following, the prosecutions that happened after January 6th. It was a terrible time and a terrible chapter in America's history. The president's made his decision. I don't second guess those.
Bring in CBS News political reporter Torian Small from Capitol Hill for more on this. Torian, the president has called them hostages. We just heard Speaker Johnson saying it was a weaponization of the Justice Department. Just a reminder that these people were tried and convicted by a jury of their peers. Now, is this the general consensus of Republicans on Capitol Hill?
Lindsay, what's interesting, Republicans find themselves in the awkward position of having to refute their own stances on pardons just a few days ago. Speaker Johnson there just said that he believes in second chances for these folks who were pardoned by Trump. Just a few days earlier, he called it disgusting that Joe Biden gave pardons to his family and other people as well. It's interesting looking at other Republicans. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, he's someone who's known for his colorful words when it comes to things that he strongly opposed. When it came to Trump's pardons, he said, look, I would have done things differently, taking it case by case. But that was it. And he is a staunch supporter. I wanted to look at what other Republicans who aren't so as high on Trump had to say. Trump skeptics like Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, they said they were pretty disappointed and surprised by these blanket pardons. But potentially the most telling, the Fraternal Order of Police. This is an organization that has backed Trump for the past 3 presidential election cycles. It put out a statement, a joint statement with the international organization backing chief of police around the country. They said in this statement that this sends a dangerous message to pardon folks who were convicted, tried and convicted of attacking police officers, law enforcement officers. So supporters there
in the Capitol
on Donald Trump's handling here of these pardons.
Troy, and how are lawmakers on both sides?
They chanted treason.
Executive actions the president has taken in the 48 hours since inauguration.
Yeah, a lot of Democrats are pretty upset by Donald Trump repealing some of these DEI initiatives. Senator Tim Kaine said that this is just a way of really not just attacking folks because of their identity, but also traumatizing them further. This is a prolonged trauma, he says, that'll happen over the next 4 years. A lot of folks are also taking question by some of Donald Trump's choices when it comes to also constitutional rights, like repealing or reforming birthright citizenship. I think one of the most interesting things, though, was Donald Trump installing the Department of Government Efficiency within the administration. We've seen since then lawsuits filed by organizations representing government workers, calling for transparency laws to take a look and examine what this would mean. They're arguing that not only is this potentially unlawful to have this government watchdog entity installed within the administration, but the implications that would be moving forward for government workers is also something that is worrisome to them.
Mike Johnson launching the January 6th investigation. House Republicans are launching a new committee dedicated to investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol and all events leading up to and after it. Republicans hope that with allies soon to be leading the Justice Department and FBI, they will be able to dredge up new information that muddies the narrative about the deadly assault. Our hope is we can work with Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, when they're all confirmed, according to House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan, who I will never pass up an opportunity to remind people that he covered up a sexual assault at Ohio State University. House Speaker Mike Johnson announced that the investigation will be led by a new select subcommittee under House Judiciary. Representative Barry Loudermilk, who spent the last 2 years investigating January 6th as the chair of the House Administration Committee's Oversight Subcommittee, will be the chair. Loudermilk, in a statement, said there were a series of intelligence, security, and leadership failures on January 6th and vowed needed reforms to ensure this level of security failure may never happen again. Johnson said Republicans are proud of our work so far in exposing the false narratives peddled by the politically motivated January 6th Select Committee, and that there is still more work to be done. I didn't read that wrong. That's what it says. That wasn't me stroking out. And that there is still more work to be done. Loudermilk released a pair of reports last year, mainly aimed at undermining and attacking the work of the January 6th Select Committee. Jordan on Wednesday cited the pipe bombs planted outside the DNC and RNC headquarters, as well as the presence of FBI sources at the attack, as potential new areas of inquiry. I am very interested about the pipe bombs. I would love to know more about the pipe bombs. In the report, you heard that Enrique Tarrio was being released. Here he is.
Right there on your screen. He's getting a plane ticket out of Texas. He is the ex-leader of the far-right Proud Boys. That is him, caught by CBS News cameras, leaving Dallas Love Field Airport. He is bound for home in Miami, and that's where we find CBS News correspondent Jason Allen, who spoke with Tarrio. Jason, you talked to him. What did he have to say?
Yeah, well, the reason, Reed, that he is one of the big names is because he is someone who received one of the longest, if not the longest, sentences out of everybody who was prosecuted for their activities on that day. The leader of the Proud Boys at the time, more than a 20-year sentence, even though he was not present for those activities in Washington.
Well, he snitched.
He'd been ordered out of the area, but prosecutors said that he was directing activities.
He was an FBI informant.
Activities. He told me today that he wasn't at all surprised to receive the pardon from the president. He called the president a man of his word. He believed that he would follow through on a promise. When I asked him further about maybe the breadth of these pardons, right, to not only include people who were prosecuted for being there and walking into the Capitol, but also accused of violent crimes, he didn't necessarily deny at all that people committed some of the.
Once again, I don't think Tarrio has a political philosophy necessarily, because in one of the documentaries, I think the HBO, the QAnon one, Like, he admits to having a t-shirt business that sells like Democrat liberal stuff. Like, he has t-shirt businesses for both. And it's like wherever the political winds take him.
These actions they were accused of, and he said they've been held accountable rather, and I think we'll hear from him now. He really had a problem with the process that happened in the courts after that.
I think the miscarriage of justice that happened in these cases, regardless if somebody agrees with putting their hands on the police officer or whatnot, how the process worked out was unfair. You know,
how was that unfair?
Take it outside of D.C. D.C. voted 93% for Biden, so they needed a fair trial. So,
brother, you could have moved for a change of venue. Your lawyers could have absolutely done that. However, like, there's a process for that, and if the judge denied that, or if you didn't fucking move for a change of venue, you didn't think you could get a fair trial in D.C., they absolutely do that, you motherfucker. There is a process. But, like, that's where you committed the crime. That's how it works. You are tried in the jurisdiction where the crime was committed.
if we would have gotten a fair trial, I think I would have.
You got a fair trial.
Needed a pardon.
Again, as to how this pardon changes things for him, for the others who were prosecuted for activities that day, he said he really thinks the conversation changed back on November 5th when President Trump was elected back into office.
And we also understand that President Trump had a conversation with Tario's mother. What can you tell us about that?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, there have been these discussions that have gone on, right? And the president has talked
quesadilla.
Family members of people who have been involved.
He's an absolute grifter.
You know, we know that his family has pushed very hard for him to be released, to be included in these releases. And what we're not so clear on is what happens from here. You know, Taro, when we asked him about his association with the Proud Boys, said that we should stop referring to him as the ex-leader. And when another one of our CBS station photographers was here, asked him, do you have any message to people that have, been with you or following you through this process? He responded with just fight, 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 fight. So we'll see where it goes from here and expect him to possibly make some more comments about this whole situation when he arrives back with family.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be on podcasts.
We understand we have some sound that we can roll right now when you asked him about his association, either past, present, or future with the Proud Boys. Let's listen.
What's your association at this point with Proud Boys?
We've made the decision 4 years ago not to tell the media what our structure is, but I'd suggest that the media should stop calling me ex-Proud Boy leader.
So you are still...
He is the leader.
That's all. That's the only comment. That's the only comment I'm going to give you.
He says it there.
Yeah, so you hear that, Reed.
What are they proud about? Are they potty trained?
No more X.
He doesn't want to go and exactly clarify X or if he is still the leader. But yeah, he doesn't want to be called X. As to what maybe the others in the organization say, we'll see.
All right, CBS News correspondent Jason Allen at Dallas.
Who gives a shit about the Proud Boys? What we're gonna worry about the Proud Boys' feelings or some shit? Oh my God. I hate YouTube. We'll watch the whole goddamn thing then.
Visit and meeting with the president. One of the officers attacked on January 6th, Michael Fanone, joins us now. First, your reaction to these discussions happening in the White House, Michael, to invite some of the rioters to the White House.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Donald Trump has, ingratiated himself with these violent criminals ever since he announced his candidacy from Waco, Texas. That being said, it's obviously outrageous. It's an insult. But Donald Trump is an insurrectionist president, and so I think it's fitting, to be honest with you.
ACAB means Fanone too, but I'd probably fuck him.
That police received, I'm assuming you received it from DOJ as well, that the January 6 rioters who were testified against will be released.
Interestingly enough, I didn't get those phone calls, but I know that the individuals that were charged with assaulting have been released. And let's talk about who these individuals are, because I want the American people to understand fully. You know, I want every person that comes on CNN and
I don't think he's going to have to, Flash,
to understand who these individuals were. They are Daniel Rodriguez, an individual who applied a taser device to my neck while I was being restrained multiple times. Daniel Rodriguez admitted his conduct, pled guilty, and was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. He is now free. Kyle Young pled guilty, admitted that while I was being restrained, assaulted, and beaten, he attempted to remove my gun from its holster, all while individuals were telling him to kill me with my gun. Thomas Civic, who stripped me of my badge and radio, again, while I was being assaulted and restrained. And Albuquerque Cosper Head, who grabbed me around the neck, pulled me off a police line out into the crowd of these violent insurrectionists, allowing this assault to take place while he yelled out, "I've got one." These are violent criminals whose conduct on January 6th, many of whom pled guilty to and were sentenced to lengthy jail sentences. They are
deserved
free. Make no mistake about it. I am less safe. My family is less safe because of what Donald Trump and the American people who supported him have done.
Everything you just mentioned, what has the impact been on you personally with your physical health and your mental health?
I mean, you know, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm not going to go away. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to push back against the.
I mean, they're telling the cops in that one video, like they're like, "We're on your side,"
Trump and his supporters.
You say that you feel less safe, that your family is less safe now that these rioters that you mentioned have been pardoned. How so? Tell us about that and how you feel less safe right now.
I mean, listen, these are individuals who assaulted law enforcement officers at the behest of Donald Trump, the president. They are now free. Donald Trump has told the Americans.
This is really scary.
If you commit crimes on my behalf, I've got your back. I will pardon you. I will absolve you of any accountability. What message do you think that sends?
It emboldens them.
Donald Trump's supporters, people like the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, these violent anti-government groups who Donald Trump has brought into his inner circle. It says, go out there and assault my detractors. Go out there and silence those that would stand up against me, and I will make sure that you are never held to account. The rule of law in this country is dead. Criminal justice in this country is dead. And people like myself cannot turn to the institutions traditionally charged with protecting American citizens from violent attacks just like this. Because the Department of Justice is not the independent body that we have all come to know.
No, it's certainly not.
The Department of Justice is Donald Trump's Department of Justice. The FBI is Donald Trump's FBI. Local law enforcement is Donald Trump's local law enforcement. Make no mistake about it. These police departments, they will fall in line with Donald Trump and his orders. You will not see the mass resignations that so many people have speculated would occur when Donald Trump comes in, tears up the Constitution, and starts doing whatever.
These are all loyalists he brought in with him this time.
I believe we have sound from the Oath Keepers leader, Stuart Rhodes, who spoke after he was released from prison. I want to listen to that and then get your reaction to that on the other side, Michael. So let's listen.
Any regrets? No, I don't, because we did the right thing. We were there to protect Trump supporters from Antifa. We were there to protect and secure 2 permitted events on Capitol grounds where members of Congress were going to speak. The guys that went inside, they're not committing the crimes. In fact, they help people. They help the police and help the people out.
He says he has no regrets. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would say to Stuart Rhodes. Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
You're a liar.
We didn't obviously get to beep that word out, but
I hell yeah, known.
This is personal to you, Michael. This is very personal to you. Have you been getting any threats? You talked about.
I want to hear it again.
Any regrets? No, I don't, because we did the right thing. We were there to protect Trump supporters from Antifa. We were there to protect and secure 2 permitted events on Capitol.
I mean, we're watching it on replay on YouTube, and they didn't censor it.
They're not committing the crimes. In fact, they help people. They help the police and help the people out.
He says he has no regrets. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would say to Stuart Rhodes. Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
You're a liar.
We didn't obviously get to beep that word out, but obviously this is personal to you, Michael. This is very personal to you. Have you been getting any threats? You talked about safety. You worried for your safety and for your family. Have you been getting any direct threats?
I never stopped getting threats. I mean, my family, the threats have never stopped. I didn't even make it through my congressional testimony during the Select Committee hearing before I received my first threat.
And they just continue.
In recent months, and they continue. In recent months, my mother has had her home swatted. She's a 76-year-old woman who lives alone. She has had bricks thrown at her house in the middle of the night. And just a few months ago, she was out raking the leaves in her front yard when an individual pulled up in a truck and threw a bag of shit on her.
Wow.
All because her son had the courage to testify about his experiences on January 6th as a police officer in this country.
What do you say to what Trump claims is that, the election is a referendum on this, the country has moved on, they don't care, they elected me anyway? What do you say to that? And
it's
to the
wild.
Who just who don't care. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree with President Trump. I believe that the election was in part a referendum on January 6th, and that most Americans, they don't care. Because the characteristics that many of us have come to associate with ourselves as Americans, things like honor, courage, integrity, are all bullshit. They've been replaced by things like selfishness, self-centeredness, and cowardice. And that's how we came to have Donald Trump as our president.
All right.
Damn.
Thank you so much for coming on to talk. And I'm so sorry that your mother has had to go through that. That there's no excuse for that. That is awful.
Yes, his mother shouldn't get shit on. I'm glad we watched all that. I know I shouldn't. I shouldn't give it, like you guys brought it up in the chat. Like, you shouldn't treat these people like they're celebrities. Shouldn't give them any more press than what they got. But like, I can't help myself. This is gonna be entertaining. Do you guys remember the QAnon shaman?
Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty. So, is this how we do things in England, I say? Yes, you can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear?
Now, we gotta watch this. This is gonna be amazing.
Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty. So, is this how we do things in England, I say? Yes, you can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear?
Why did you plead guilty then? first, I've been speaking to one of those who has been pardoned, Jacob Chansley, known to many online as QAnon Shaman. He faced federal charges of knowingly remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority and with violent entry and disorderly conduct on the Capitol grounds. He pleaded guilty to unlawfully obstructing the certification of the 2020 presidential election. He served 41 months in jail and was released early. I asked him about that day.
Politico had a really good piece that, these people are very likely to be all back in jail within the next 8 years, just statistically speaking. They're all very likely to be back in jail within the next year. Something like 60% of them within like the first 18 months.
If you mean like the law that I broke, I entered the building illegally. If you mean like stopping people from stealing, volunteering to help the police, saying a prayer inside the Senate, singing my shamanic song inside the Senate, stopping people from breaking in once outside the building, and literally like facing an angry mob all by myself, telling everybody they're not going to break in.
He was actually a hero.
Also happened that day. It really all depends on what you mean by by your question.
Well, how you remember it?
Well, I remember it being a lot different than the mockingbirds in the media have spun it, that's for sure. The chaos and the violence that took place outside the building that day was largely provoked, as far as I remember, by tear gas, concussion grenades, and rubber bullets being shot into a peaceful crowd. It was after all that all hell broke loose. So that usually gets forgotten. I think that the whole thing has just been mischaracterized.
Bro, the entire day, I was amazed that they weren't cracking your guys' skulls. Any other fucking group of protesters in this country would have absolutely been put down by force. It was absurd to me that you were handled with the kid gloves that you were. Because let me tell you, the police in this country don't fucking play. They will shoot you in the back.
Characterized in so many ways that myself included. I mean, people think I'm an insurrectionist or a Republican. I'm a libertarian.
You're an insurrectionist.
So much distortion because of the media. One of the things I like to say is you don't realize how distorted the media lens actually is until you see your own reflection in it.
Well, now is your chance to be absolutely clear about this. Are you saying you did not go into that building to try to stop the certification of the accurate 2020 U.S. presidential election result?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I did not go into the building for that reason. And the fact that you still think that I did just shows how distorted the media lens actually is.
Then why did you go in?
Never my intention. That's never been my intention.
I'm just literally looking at what you pleaded guilty to. That's what I'm going from. You pleaded guilty to unlawfully obstructing an official proceeding, i.e.
And
the
didn't the Supreme Court say that? But didn't the Supreme Court just say that is not a practical application of the law whatsoever?
No.
The government was bending the law to gain convictions out of it?
No.
Give us your reaction to being pardoned for that day by President Trump.
Fred, good evening.
It feels just like it should.
Go on.
Well, I think that pretty much says it all.
Describe your emotions when you heard.
I think I got the news from my lawyer when I was at the gym. And I walked outside and I screamed freedom at the top of my lungs and then gave a good Native American war cry.
And did you expect him to follow through on what he has promised on a number of occasions through the campaign trail?
I expect Donald Trump to be a man of his word like he has been for decades. And that is a track record that we don't have with pretty much any politician in D.C. for the most part. Very few have that kind of a record of saying the same things and doing the same things, which are pro-American, for over 30 years.
You wrote on X.
The man has been a liar and a grifter for 30 years. 40 years. From the very beginning of his career in real estate. Jesus.
After you'd heard the news, thank you, President Trump. I'm going to buy some mother effing guns. Because presumably now your record has been wiped clean, you are allowed to buy guns again. Is that what you're going to do? Have you gone out and bought them already?
Oh, yeah. Well, I want you to think about something. The mockingbirds in the media and the government demonized me. They made me social pariah. They attached things like QAnon, conspiracy theorist, white supremacist, insurrectionist, racist, homophobe, terrorist. They attached all those labels to my image. And then they imprisoned me for 27 months, 10 and a half in solitary confinement. And then they released me to the public as social pariah without the ability to own a firearm. So I can never really actually bring in a gun to a gunfight. I always have to bring a knife to a gunfight. And you do realize how wrong that is, right?
Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty.
Yes.
So is this how we do things in England? I say, yes, yes. You can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear.
Why did you plead guilty then?
Have you ever been in solitary confinement before?
Tell me why you pled guilty.
I'm asking you the question, dear. Have you ever been in solitary confinement? The answer is no. Have you ever had the media and the government simultaneously mischaracterizing your involvement in some sort of a political...
This is what all the dumb fuck right-wingers do. They play riddles. They ask you, have you ever been in solitary confinement? Like, what the fuck does that have to do with the goddamn question she is posing to you about what you did? You pled guilty.
...sized travesty that is being used to actually circumvent the law and certify an election that in every way, shape, and form has all the hallmarks of a regime change and corruption. I mean, you've never been in my shoes. You don't want to be in my shoes. You're too afraid to be in my shoes. That's why you're behind the camera that you're behind, and I'm behind the one that I'm behind.
And that's why I'm asking you to give me an insight into why you pleaded guilty.
I just gave it to you. But like I said, you can't see the forest for the trees, my dear.
Explain it to me. Go on.
No. In no way, shape, or form obligated to explain anything to you.
Because you don't have an explanation.
What do you mean, especially now? Because you're a free man.
Plenty.
Well, you were released a little while ago.
Not just that. I've been vindicated more than once, dear.
No, he got out before a little while ago. He'd been out, right? He only served like a year and a half or something. Because he'd already been on talk shows and shit. Or am I just thinking about before he went in? Can somebody verify that for me?
And the BBC has its reputation in the gutter. You guys covered up Jimmy Savile for years. You covered up the rape gangs for years. You guys got the Dorian Gray image right in front of you. You got your own painting right in front of you.
Huh?
It's no offense. It's what you guys deserve as an institution. I don't know if you're one of the people that covered this stuff up, but I mean, you
Oh, Femvox, this is the QAnon shaman. I have the picture here. You'll totally remember from the picture. That guy. DJ Dub, good evening.
You all know what you did over the last several decades. You know who you've been protecting.
I've spent years covering abuse of young women and young men as it happens. But anyway, not long after you...
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Did you cover the rape gangs, or did you help cover that up? Did you cover Jimmy Savile while he was doing all that stuff to those children with special needs?
Jake,
or did you cover the...
Nice deflection.
Andrew went to Epstein Island.
Not long after...
Yeah, fuck Andrew.
You said you regretted...
I mean, fuck Jimmy Savile, too.
...for entering the Capitol building. And then when you got out of jail, it sounded like you weren't remorseful or regretful anymore. Where do you stand now?
Holding on to regret or hatred or anger or depression is bad spiritual hygiene. I regret nothing. You understand?
Would you do the same again?
Because I'm a better man because of what I went through. Do you regret things that are hard that you go through but make you a better human being? No, because they made you a better human being. And in all honesty, if you think of my lack of presence there on January 6th, then what you'll find is that January 6th narrative no longer has an Achilles heel. So I was the Achilles heel of the January 6th narrative because the media made me one, because they lied They lied in mass to billions of people.
What did they lie about?
In the ass.
What did they lie about, and how's it come back to bite them in the ass?
Lord, if you can't read the writing on the wall, dear, there's nothing I can do.
Oh my God!
I'm asking you.
Oh, and I'm telling you. You dig what I'm saying? You can't figure this out on your own. There's nothing I can do to help you, dear.
Donald Trump.
Because I can't. There's nothing I'll be able to say to you. Do you understand? Like you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can lead a person to knowledge, but you can't make him think. I'm leading you to the knowledge, but I mean, it's up to you to think about it.
Donald Trump.
Don, good evening.
All those who were convicted after January the 6th called you unbelievable patriots. I wonder if you also support the pardoning of those who were convicted alongside you, but who attacked police officers, for example.
Yeah, where's this knowledge at?
If they served their time, if they were in prison at the time, then they did their time. They did their sentence. I leave it to the president's discretion. In all honesty, he's the one that has the Department of Justice and the files at his disposal. He's the one that has the large legal team. I don't have any of that stuff. I trust his judgment. Way more than I trust the judgment.
I mean, I'd hope he gets some good shit.
Garland or Joe Biden.
He seems like he's on something.
I think if people had tried to stop the certification of Trump's win this time around.
I didn't try to stop the certification. That's the thing you people just don't seem to understand.
I wasn't necessarily saying you did.
Stopping the certification.
I wasn't necessarily saying you did. I was just asking a broader question.
Come on, man. But stopping the certification was not in the best interest of any Trump supporter. We wanted there to be a debate. It was in the best interest of the deep state. That's why I believe they staged the whole thing to begin with.
What would
you in all honesty, that's about all the time I have, my dear. So I'm
would
gonna
you
have
do
to
it
let
again?
you go.
Would you do it again, Jake?
What kind of question is that? Do you mean like if I had the knowledge that I have now, would I go back and do the whole thing all over again? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes? Is that it?
Yes.
If I had the knowledge I have now and I could go back, I would try to stop the whole thing from happening. I'd go down to the Capitol before Trump was even on frickin' stage, and I would hold sacred space. I would say a prayer. I would get everybody focused on God and God alone and not easily provoked.
Thank you very much for talking to Newsnight, Jake. We appreciate your time.
God bless.
God bless. 1, 2, it depends on the program, I believe. So, like, news stuff, I don't think they pay for. However, this was like one of their commentary. This would be like the equivalent of a Rachel Maddow or a Sean Hannity or something in the U.S. So they may pay for interviews. It's a more like tabloid kind of show, so possibly. Yes, as Flash pointing out, he was literally one of the people in the Senate chambers. I have the video here handy because I was doing it earlier for the freaking news. Here you can see Chamley in the Senate. I really like, yeah, that's where he's up there in the... He's in the balcony. I think they flip up there to him here in a second. You can see the shaman like, ah!
There's gotta be something in there we can fucking use against these scumbags.
I think that's Ted Cruz's seat, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's Chamley. Doing some kind of chant. I'm amused by him. Ted Cruz would want us to do this. Well, Ted Cruz is a piece of shit, so. Apparently, there is a new rule in the Trump administration that staffers are not allowed to go drink with members of Congress or their staff, which I find to be kind of odd. Senior leadership at the White House has started setting expectations, and they're a bit more sober than past administrations. White House legislative affairs staffers and others in external-facing roles have been strongly discouraged from drinking with members of Congress, according to two people granted anonymity to discuss internal White House decisions. The new guidelines, a departure from past administrations, include Donald Trump's first term, were conveyed to staffers individually and verbally. We strongly urged everyone in the Legislative Affairs Office and everyone who's externally facing to be thoughtful about their alcohol use in public, and specifically with members. We strongly discourage drinking with members. I 100% believe that is because they don't want people spoiling their plans. They don't want members of Congress getting word of what they're planning on doing. And that's kind of chilling. Because it's not the alcohol, I think, is the problem. It's that you're going to go and drink and get the loose lips. That's how shit gets going in Washington, D.C. Today, State Department canceling the refugee travel to the United States.
But for now, let's turn our monitors to the White House. The Trump administration continues to drastically change the U.S. immigration system during his first 100 days in office. Earlier this morning, the State Department released a memo canceling all refugee travel and processing. The president also issued a number of executive orders involving immigration over these last 3 days. Those orders include ending birthright citizenship, declaring a national emergency at the border, and designating cartels as terrorist organizations. Attorneys general in more than 20 states have already filed lawsuits to stop Trump from ending birthright citizenship. So let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes for more on all this. Nancy, can you walk us through what we've learned from this memo and what it means for the refugee process? I mean, these people are in limbo now.
Yes, so CBS News has obtained some internal guidance for resettlement agencies that basically instructs them to stop the refugee referral process overseas and to pause this Biden administration policy that allowed private American citizens to sponsor these refugees. This comes after President Trump signed an executive order essentially ending, at least for now, we're not quite sure, the refugee program that has often been a beacon for the United States. The fact that the U.S. does allow in refugees from war-torn areas where their lives are at risk sometimes. In
totally legal process, by the way.
The U.S. itself is involved.
A lot of right-wingers like to refer to them as illegals.
Moving very quickly on this front, as it is on other fronts, Liz, to try to change policy as quickly as it can, knowing that some of these new policies could face legal challenges. They could be forced by any number of federal judges to pause what they are doing, and so they want to get as much done as possible before
That's why before the courts weigh in. Already facing legal challenges, Keith Ellison of Minnesota joining 20 other states suing the Trump administration over birthright citizenship.
Tonight, Minnesota is one of 20 states now suing President Trump over one of his many executive orders.
Attorney General Keith Ellison and others filing the lawsuit just hours after Trump signed an order to end.
Who's this Matthew McConaughey looking motherfucker?
Fox 9's Mike Manzoni spoke with the Attorney General tonight. And Mike, he says the president cannot legally do this.
And Kelsey and Randy,
of course he can't.
The 14th Amendment guarantees that anyone born in the United States is automatically a citizen. They also point out that an executive order cannot change the Constitution. President Trump signed nearly 100 orders on Inauguration Day. Just hours later, 20 states sued him over one of them.
For Donald Trump to say it's not the policy
is pretty alarming.
You're exactly right, Mike. Depending on the ignorance of the average American, is what the Republicans do constantly with their demagoguery.
Is illegal. It's protected under the 14th Amendment, which is why he and others say the president has no authority to end it.
Birthright citizenship is the law of the land. It's the way it is. It's our country. And you got to change the Constitution if you want to change that.
Trump's order cancels birthright citizenship for those born to mothers not legally in the United States and whose fathers were not citizens or lawful permanent residents. It also applies to those whose mothers were in the country on a legal but temporary basis and whose fathers were not citizens or legal permanent residents.
It is just sort of ongoing uncertainty, and that is in some ways almost worse than certainty.
Julia Decker with the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota says it's unclear what the order could mean for Minnesota's roughly 81,000 undocumented immigrants.
It is something that confers a lot of benefits to somebody, and to sort of unilaterally just have that swept out from under us in this way, in this attempted way, is obviously a very big thing.
The legal fight over birthright citizenship could eventually make its way to the Supreme Court, but Ellison isn't worried, even if most of the justices now lean to the right.
This case gets looked at with conservative eyes, or anybody who respects the Constitution.
They don't respect the Constitution.
Get over real quick.
And he's right about that. They just don't respect the Constitution.
Federal agencies to stop recognizing citizenship of people in the categories outlined. It is unclear what that means for current citizens born to undocumented immigrants. In the studio, Mike Manzoni, Fox 9.
I told you yesterday about my friend worried about possibly having to shield migrant friends, a DACA recipient, from federal raids. Can ICE arrest immigrants at schools or churches now? Another order that is going to be challenged, I'm sure.
So we are watching the impacts of President Donald Trump's executive orders on deportation. So today, the focus is on whether ICE agents can arrest people in places like churches and schools and hospitals. Prior to today, deemed safe spaces. So let's go live to CBS News correspondent Andres Gutierrez. Andres, you went to those church leaders who are hearing from their congregants. They are afraid. What are they saying?
Yeah, good to be with you, Reed. So I spent Tuesday evening at the Emmanuel Presbyterian Church in Los Angeles, where the pastor told me that there is so much anxiety among members of the congregation over deportations and the fact that ICE could be showing up at churches and schools, places that were at one point thought to be off limits. Over the last year, the church has hosted 6 families from Venezuela, Honduras, and Ecuador for about 2 to 3 months until they can find some stable housing here in the U.S. And on Tuesday night, the church ended up holding a prayer vigil to encourage folks to stay strong and to be informed about their rights. The pastor applauded the remarks that bishop told President Trump during that prayer service on Tuesday to have mercy on undocumented immigrants. He said that there are several folks in this community that are fearful of deportation, that these refugees are fleeing political repression, the violence and gangs, and sending them back to those conditions would be unthinkable.
Well, and you have to think of the children. I'm remembering the interview that Tom Homan did with CBS a couple of months ago when asked about mixed status families, families that have undocumented people and people who are documented. He said families can be deported, famously, that answer. But what about children who are undocumented?
Yeah, that's on so many minds, Reed. And so I ended up speaking to a nonprofit out of San Antonio, Texas, that began in 2017, so during the first Trump administration. And since then, they have trained over 30,000 teachers, students, and families over what to do if ICE were to show up at schools. Their whole premise is to create safe zones at schools. Their policies essentially outline that part of what Trump is doing right now is essentially a part of doing this shock and awe campaign, right? That he wants to scare families in letting them think that ICE agents can show up at schools and yank students out. However, there are federal protections regarding student privacy that prevents anyone from going ahead and saying, hey, what is a student's, status? They can't ask that. And so right now, this nonprofit is essentially letting teachers know that.
Show us that pig putting on that vest again.
For these students.
And of course, the question is, how long will those protections?
The stock footage was killing me.
Or at least untested, Andres. Another executive order that Trump issued expands expedited deportation. So talk to us about what that is. And then I'm thinking, in the environment of expedited deportation, do we even have the infrastructure in these United States to do that?
Yeah, so let's break down what exactly expedited deportations mean. So essentially, if someone was stopped near the border and had been here for less than 2 weeks, they could be sent back without seeing an immigration judge. Now it can be done anywhere in the U.S. and they also have to not prove that they've been living here over the last 2 years. So the process is much faster than regular deportation. And as far as the infrastructure goes, it seems that the president is determined to get it done one way or the other. Just today, a U.S. official told CBS News that there are 1,000 additional soldiers that are preparing to go to the border as we speak to beef up the presence there. And so here in Los Angeles, it is a sanctuary city, so the federal government cannot rely on any city resources to help them carry out immigration law.
Andres Gutierrez, thank you so much. This is a story that will continue commanding headlines, I think.
Can we do like some trade out program? Some of us that want to move, we can just take the place of someone who's seeking asylum here. That like a trading vote kind of deal. I think you might be onto something there clinically. But all this is a giveaway. It's a giveaway to private prison corporations. Private detention facilities. That's all it is. It's a money-making scheme. Private detention facilities help finance Trump's campaign, and now they're gonna rake in all kinds of money. Dumb fuck right-wingers don't realize what they're doing. Got played, fear-mongered about the racism. They don't like the brown people coming from South America. So now they're gonna pay a hell of a lot of money to private contractors to put them in cages. AOC breaks it down.
Mr. Speaker, you may wonder why so many of our friends across the aisle who care so deeply about the rule of law happen to be so desperate to pass this bill after they are unleashing people who attacked police officers here on this Capitol into roaming our streets, who are publicly saying now they want to get a gun. Suddenly, these folks care about public safety? I don't think so. Look no further than the price tag of this bill, $83 billion. They know that it can't be paid for. They know that the capacity is not there. And you know what will be there? Private prison companies are going to get flooded with money, who give this money, no doubt. I want folks at home to look. Look at what members of Congress are invested in private prison companies who receive this kind of money, and look at the votes on this bill. It is atrocious that people are lining their pockets with private prison profits in the name of a horrific tragedy and the victim of a crime. It is shameful. It is absolutely shameful.
And she is correct. And not only that, just the wild thing that they are willfully going to destroy our economy. They're going to destroy our food production almost overnight. Don't believe me? Listen to a Trump voter who runs a farm. He's banking on Trump not doing what he said he's going to do.
What percentage of your workers are not U.S. born?
Probably half.
About half?
Yeah.
How many hours does this go on?
It's 24 hours a day. You know, we could milk 8 hours a day, but it wouldn't be feasible or profitable for us to produce milk.
So you need workers like this year-round?
Yes, yes.
Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota, her farm is just a few miles away. This farmer who voted for her, who voted for Trump, who still supports them, doesn't believe that they would round up immigrants and ask them for their immigration status, because it's an open secret that farms in this state are held up by undocumented workers. Are you worried, like some of your other farmers, that if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants, that you might lose workers? You might not have enough workers.
Well, the question I asked, how are they going to do that? Within 2 days, we will not have food. There will not be food anywhere.
2 days?
Yes. That's why I predict nobody will be filling the shelves, nobody will be producing food. If we once have to shut down and be gone, it's never coming back.
Does Governor Noem understand that?
I would think so.
You have a lot of faith that they're not going to do what they're saying.
That's pretty much what I'm thinking. So we have to trust in our officials that are put in place.
We have to trust in our officials, Donald Trump, not to do the thing that he campaigned on and that his supporters are ravenous for. I swear, like, everyone always was like, I'm in the center. You don't agree with open borders. Well, first of all, there is no open border. Our southern border has been militarized for decades now. You absolutely have to stop, possibly get searched, show your papers, all that good shit at the border. So, like, the idea that there's open borders since Eisenhower, thank you, Flash, the idea that there's open borders is just idiotic propaganda from right-wingers that takes advantage of ignorant people in the country and foreigners just coming to have babies in the U.S. I don't give a shit. I'm an American. We're supposed to be a bastion of freedom. Give us you're tired, you're weak. That's the American credo. As many people that want to come here, they can, because I don't feel that a government should be able to tell me I can't go live in another country. So why should my country be able to tell people they can't come here? Especially when, like, literally, one, I'm a white person, don't have any fucking rights to this country to begin with. Who fucking made me fucking get, like, I was brought over as a slave. An indentured servant, not me personally, but my goddamn ancestors, to work in the mines. Anyone who's against foreigners coming over here has never read a goddamn history book, and it kind of pisses me off. So your statement just has multiple things that are wrong with it. And, like, so you're like, oh, I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place. Well, I mean, you're false premises to begin with. I don't see any goddamn borders. You look at a map of the fucking world. There's no borders on it. Who the fuck made borders? I have a friend that moved to Mexico and he's having the time of his life. Okay, great. You've lived in Asia for 30 years and you want to tell people that they can't come to America. Weird. Very weird. Very weird. Oh, shit. Holiday, I have no idea. I don't think I've been very plugged in today. I've had another weird day. You followed the rules here. Okay, cool. People seeking asylum in the United States are following our rules. Byronic, good evening. I don't think I told you good evening. And, like, Republicans are demonizing people that are following the rules. Yeah, people have to report to immigration every 3 months here or something like that. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't think you understand how our process works. I would recommend that you go to YouTube, find a good immigration lawyer, Like, don't find some fucking podcaster who don't know nothing about anything. Don't get you some Tim Pool or anything. Find an actual immigration lawyer. There's one, I can't think of what his name is. Something Esquire is what he goes by on YouTube. And actually listen to them talk about the process. I'm the one showing ignorance about the U.S. Am I? Am I? Bro. Ronald Reagan, but I don't know if he does like YouTube. Okay, supposedly you lived in Asia for 30 years, but you know the U.S. immigration process better than any other American. The fuck are you talking about? Oh my God. Anyway, we are going to move on. He's also had some weird... All right, 1, 2, you're going to have to call in if you want to keep having discussions. Because you just made the system is exploited by people claiming asylum. How are they exploiting the system? The fuck are you talking about? The number is 917-830-4359. Or you can hop in the Discord, because you and I need to have a little discussion here. Because you need to explain what in the hell you're talking about. How are they exploiting a system? We exploit them. We exploit them. Migrants who are undocumented pay taxes into the system and don't receive services back. We let corporations exploit them for cheap labor, which keeps the fucking food flowing on your table. We exploit migrants. And as for all the countries that they're fleeing, I guarantee you, if you look, like say they're from Honduras, or they're from Guatemala, they're from Venezuela, the United States CIA did something to their country 40, 50, 60 years ago. And that's what's having the ripple effect that's causing them to flee the country. So we actually owe it to them to bring them in. Ban travel to all those. Why would anybody ban travel? Brother, I don't think you're all that bright, my friend. This is one of the reasons why I call right-wingers morons. And if you're not going to call in, we're going to have to move on, because it's no fun to hear me talk or to hear me argue with somebody that's in the chat. But you're welcome to come and voice your opinion. We can have a fantastic conversation, I'm sure. Our favorite senator was asked about the new allegations against Pete Hegseth.
Grace, our CBS.
Okay.
Do you have any reaction to federal DEI employees being put on leave at the end of the day?
The federal DEI employees being put on leave?
Yeah.
I think the American people have spoken very clearly that that the best way to stop discriminating against people on the basis of race or gender is to stop discriminating against people on the basis of race and gender. The truth is the American people don't think about race or gender nearly as much as some folks in Washington.
Nearly as much as fucking Republicans. It's all they ever goddamn talk about. Some dipshit came to one of my memes on my JustinFREAKIN Facebook page and posted some meme about how all leftists ever think about his gender. I'm like, brother, you're the one that brought it up. It's wild.
Washington want to pretend. They think more about merit. They think about character. They understand that souls have no color. And
souls have no core.
Race and gender in a commonsensical way.
Oh, color.
To a bear, we all taste like chicken.
To a bear, we all taste like chicken. I don't think humans taste like chicken. I'd say we probably taste closer to steak. Probably, maybe we should try some monkey. Monkey is probably the closest thing. Human meat.
Folks in Washington want to pretend. They think more about merit. They think about character. They understand that souls have no color. And most Americans approach race and gender in a commonsensical way. They think, to a bear, we all taste like chicken. In the past, I personally don't believe that race or gender should be used to help a person or to harm her.
Anti-war machine.
The past 4 years under President Biden, it was the exact opposite. And I think what you're going to see under President Trump, reacting to the feelings of the American people, is to go back to a race-neutral, gender-neutral system based on merit.
Do you have any concerns about the allegations made in the affidavit about Pete Hegseth from his former sister-in-law? Have you had a chance to review that?
I've seen this movie before. I've seen it in the Kavanaugh hearings. The author of the affidavit submitted the affidavit and said she wouldn't take questions. I noticed that she didn't present herself at the hearing to be examined, and Mr. Hegseth has denied it all.
Senator, some of the pardoned January 6th rioters are planning on coming up to the Hill this week and doing tours and getting tours from members. Do you think it's appropriate for them to be coming and visiting so shortly after being pardoned for crimes in the Capitol?
Well, I was here on January 6th. And it was not exactly a Lincoln moment for America.
No shit, Sherlock.
Here's what I saw. I saw a protest that turned into a riot. I didn't see an attempted insurrection. I saw a protest that got out of hand. I probably would have done things differently than President Trump did. I understand his point of view. I think he feels that people who participated in that protest, which became a riot, were punished.
An insurrection.
Because of their politics. I understand that. I'm not saying it's true or not true. I would have preferred the president to look at each case individually, case by case, and separate out those acts of nonviolence and those acts of violence. And with respect to the acts of violence, to look at each case individually and say, well, was the punishment...
Well, clearly that's not what he wanted to do.
President Trump chose not to do it that way.
Do you have concerns about them coming and visiting the Capitol this week?
I gave you the best answer I could.
So you can't rile up the president, is what you're wanting to say.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
Trump's nominee for OMB. Media Winch, thank you for the resub. Welcome in, darling. Trump's pick for director of Office of Management and Budget. Grilled by Bernie Sanders earlier today.
Living in a moment in American history where at a time when 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. Three multi-billionaires own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. People are struggling. Living in a moment in American history where
YouTube been weird tonight. It's doing some weird shit.
People are living paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. Three multi-billionaires.
Record scratch, run it back.
More wealth than the bottom half of American society. People are struggling to put food on the table. Very rich are getting much richer. We have heard from our Republican colleagues in the House that they think it is a good idea to go forward to provide massive tax breaks to the billionaire class and at the same time help pay for that by cutting back on Medicaid. And I know that you are more than aware that Medicaid not only provides health care to tens of millions of lower income people, but 2 out of 3 people in nursing homes in America, elderly people, are on Medicaid, paid for by Medicaid. You are going to be an advisor to the president if you are approved. Will you tell the president that it is immoral, that it is wrong to cut Medicaid, cut health care for low-income Americans, for children, and for the elderly, and give tax breaks to the very richest people in our society? Is that something we can count on you to do?
Senator, one of the problems, and I appreciate the questions, one of the problems that we have in the Medicaid problem is the extent to which, instead of being a program for the poor, it's alone, and the extent to which it's meant for nursing homes and things of that nature. We have able-bodied working adults on the program that are benefiting from a higher match rate than the populations that it was originally designed for. And as a result of that expanded match, you also have states kind of chasing that match in other ways that have made it so that they're not looking at improper payments.
All right. You're going into I don't have a lot of time. You're going into another area, and that is a healthcare system in general. As you well know, unfortunately, the United States of America is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. And the result of that, despite Medicaid, and we can argue about this or that aspect.
Dude, I had a argument with some dumb fuck right-winger earlier today about like why we shouldn't own our mineral rights and oil rights and all that. And I brought up Norway, and they're like, oh, well, Norway had to nationalize their health care in order to pay for their stupid, I don't even remember how entitlements or however he called it. I was like, oh, so what you're saying is if we was to nationalize our oil, we could have health care in this country. Now you're kind of getting to the point, dude. And I couldn't get him to wrap his head around, like, how can a company own a natural resource? How can you own oil? That's like owning air or owning water. Doesn't make anybody sense. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Alaska gets everybody getting cut a check. Having been from grown up in Eastern Kentucky, I wish that I got a cut of that fucking coal money.
Aspect of Medicaid, despite that 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. And importantly, and your colleague Mr. Musk made this point, we are spending far more on health care than any other country per person. I wonder, as an advisor to the president, will you try to determine how it is that countries around the world are able to provide care to all of their people, and in some cases spend 50% per capita of what we're spending? Do you think the function of the American healthcare system should be to make huge profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies? Or do you think maybe we should have a system that guarantees healthcare to all people as a human right?
What a novel idea.
That healthcare is a human right.
Senator, I believe that it's very, very important that we put the healthcare dollars that the taxpayers are covering for the healthcare system, which you just mentioned is substantial, and to make sure we have the best outcomes in those programs. I want the people who benefit from Medicaid to have a great Medicaid program. And I look at a situation, a tragedy we had where DeMonte Driver, a 12-year-old, dies of a toothache because the infection was never
You're right.
Never found.
Look, I don't want to argue. The healthcare system, in my view, is broken. It's dysfunctional. But my question to you, it's a simple one, as an advisor to the president. Do you think we should join every other major country on earth and say, you know what? Whether you're poor, you're rich, you're young, you're old, healthcare is a human right. We are the richest country in the history of the world. Do you think we should do what every other major country on earth does?
I do.
I think it's important to provide legitimate, evidence-based outcomes for people within the healthcare system, and to make sure that we...
Boy, do we have all the evidence that every other system is better.
But that,
ensuring
you didn't
they
answer
have-
my question.
That they have good
Mr.
health
Vogt,
care.
my question, fine. Question is a simple question. In America, should we do what every other major country does and say, I don't care if you're poor, you're rich, you're old, you're young. Healthcare is a human right. Yes, no.
Senator, I think the president has not made he ran on providing good healthcare outcomes. That's my view.
You're an advisor to the president. You're going to be a key advisor if you are approved. Do you think that healthcare is a human right that every American should be entitled to?
I believe the role of the Office of Management Budget Director is to take what the president has run on, the things that the president has as a policy agenda, and to turn that into policy, to implement that. And so to the extent that he has run on having lower prescription drugs, that's a priority of the administration.
Good. Are you? Well, thank you. All right. The president in the past, I don't know about recently, has indicated that he would maybe do what President Biden did, stand up to big pharma. We are paying now, in some cases, 10 times more, as you know, for the same exact drug that other countries are paying. Are you going to advise the president to take on big pharma and do what he promised to do? And that is have Americans not pay a nickel more than other countries for prescription drugs. Will you advise him to do that?
Senator, the president has not made an announcement since he's been in office, but he certainly ran on this issue. There was a speech with regard to making sure that we were getting
those concepts of a plan, right?
That the other countries were, given the amount that we're investing in it. But he also, Senator, wants to do it in a careful way, so that we are not ruining the phenomena and the industry that allows us to have life-saving
I got it. I do understand that, and I don't disagree with that.
Drugs.
We want innovation. But will you maintain what we fought very hard to do what every other country does, have Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices with the industry?
No, Senator, I'm not here to get in front of the president on any of his policies, other than to say that this has been a priority for him, and I think your question reflects that it's been a priority of his.
I've overextended my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, yeah, because Trump doesn't give a shit about you or your health care. That's not the policy. Bernie put him on the spot. Of course. Of course they don't give a shit about you and your health care. Fresh off the presses just moments ago, Warlord, are you in here? Trump has given his first sit-down television interview, asked about his pardons for January 6 rioters.
So you did run on a platform. You were very straightforward. You said you would pardon these people that were sentenced for January 6th.
Yeah, totally.
You did. The only criticism or pushback I've seen is about people that were convicted or were involved in incidents where they were violent with police. Why did they get a pardon?
A number of reasons. Number one, they were in there for 3.5 years, a long time.
Right.
And in many solitary confinement, treated like nobody's ever been treated so badly. They were treated like the worst criminals in history. And you know what they were there for? They were protesting the vote, because they knew the election was rigged and they were protesting the vote. And you should be allowed to protest the vote. You should be allowed to.
You should be allowed to overturn an election.
To invade the Capitol.
No, ready? Most of the people were absolutely innocent. Okay, but forgetting all about that, these people have served horribly a long time. It would be very, very cumbersome to go and look. You know how many people we're talking about? 1,500 people. Almost all of them this should not have happened. And the other thing is this, some of those people with the police, true, but they were very minor incidents, okay? You know, they get built up by a couple of fake guys that are on CNN all the time.
Nobody watches.
They were very minor incidents, and it was time.
Yep, Fragwoods. You should be able to protest, except if you're on the side of Palestinian rights to exist. Marjorie Taylor Greene, apparently, accusing some government agency of censoring Americans. This better be good.
The gentlelady from Georgia, Miss Greene, for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into some questions, I'd just like to point out that, Mr. Wales, in your testimony, you talked about Iran's cyber hacking attempts against President Trump's campaign this past.
This is the gentlelady.
Seriously, YouTube doing some weird ass shit.
5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into some questions, I'd just like to point out that Mr. Wales, in your testimony, you talked about Iran's cyber hacking attempts against President Trump's campaign this past election cycle, aimed at undermining President Trump's candidacy and sowing discord within the United States electoral process. So thank you for pointing that out. While cyber threats from our foreign adversaries must absolutely be protected against, we also can't forget that our own independent cybersecurity agency, CISA, was more focused on conducting its own large-scale election interference campaign through its censorship laundering complex against our own people, rather than bolstering our cybersecurity efforts and working to protect our critical infrastructure. Just some brief stats. The average cost of a data breach in the U.S. amounts to $9.36 million, almost double that of the global average. As you, Mr. Montgomery, testified, the FBI received reports of $12.5 billion in cybercrime losses in the United States in 2023, an increase of nearly 20% over 2022, which is definitely alarming. Ransomware attacks rose 74% from 2022 to 2023. Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure globally increased 30% in 2023. 1 in 3 Americans, and this is shocking, were affected by healthcare data breaches last year. Government agencies were the 3rd most targeted sector from ransomware attacks in 2023, and there are roughly 500,000 vacant cybersecurity jobs in the United States. Mr. Chairman, that is a serious issue. Most cyber attacks fall into a never-ending pattern. A threat actor—
You people have been firing government employees.
—exploits vulnerabilities in the system. They exfiltrate sensitive data or encrypt it for ransom. Then there is an investigation into how it happened, who was involved, and what measures should be taken to prevent it from happening again. And then it happens again and the cycle repeats, and we're all in a very serious dilemma. Mr. Montgomery, in your testimony, you talk about some specific offensive and defensive solutions that we can take to address the needs of our cybersecurity shortfalls. Could you elaborate a little more on that, please?
Sure, thank you. I would highlight in that first, we absolutely have to invest in our sector risk management agencies to make sure they're doing their job. It's shocking sometimes when you look at a Department of Energy spends what I think is probably the right amount, somewhere between $50 and $100 million a year on being a sector risk management agency, helping energy companies protect themselves. Then you go to the Department of Agriculture and they're spending $500,000, or Department of Education, they're spending $250,000. Most of us understand that's 2 full-time equivalents or 1 full-time, it's 1 human or 2 humans. And that's just website management. You're not helping the 8,000 farms and food distribution networks out there with 1 person manning a website. And you're not—
I'm sorry, Oregon gal. Do you want me to stop being a skank, or do you just want me to go away? Good evening.
Helping our K through 9,000 districts out there with
what? Oh, you're probably talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Consistent focus, leadership from the top down, cabinet members down, on cybersecurity is a responsibility they have as a cabinet member. And then, when appropriate, the funding to do that kind of thing. So to me, that's the number one. And I spoke earlier about military mobility. If I could only focus on 3 things, it would be rail, aviation, and ports. Because if we don't get that right, China, Russia doesn't—
Master, good evening.
Initiate combat.
Thank you. We'll
be involved in. We won't get there.
I'll take this opportunity to plug the all-new 4th Wall. It's in the description and all that good shit. Go get you some merch. Get you a Right Wingers or Morons shirt, or a Soros paid me to say it.
Oh, thank you, Mr.
Oh, we got the all-new titty slap shirt.
Titty slap.
Come on now.
Brand new for the 4th Wall, the titty slap shirt.
Marie, I completely agree with you. Those are very critical infrastructure things that we have to protect. With AI being the biggest emerging industry in
Mr. Elwood, good evening.
Industry, I'd like to ask each of you, how can we protect Americans, protect our government, protect ourselves from cyber attacks?
I would definitely wear protection if I was with Marge.
And that maybe for the good or for the bad.
I'll start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Myers.
Artificial intelligence can be one of the solutions to a lot of the problems that you highlighted. When we think about the cyber workforce, artificial intelligence can take more junior analysts and make them more senior analysts by automating and helping them deal with complex problems at scale and at speed. I'll also say that artificial intelligence in the security domain can be used to identify and quickly remediate these attacks. So there is a huge opportunity there. The one caution I'll say is that I think in the next 1 to 3 years, we'll be seeing more and more organizations and businesses employing their own artificial intelligence. And that will create a situation where there's what we would call AI workloads that need to be protected. So we need to be thinking about how can we proactively start talking about protecting those AI workloads today before they become a problem in the future.
That makes sense. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, can we allow our witnesses to each answer?
Very quickly, a yes, no, but that we need to move on. So if you've got a quick yes, no, you can do a quick yes, no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to the committee today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
You're welcome, skank. Everybody's calling her a skank, so I'm just going to go in with it. All right, let's check out you saw a clip from the Hannity interview just posted. This was the first part of the interview from earlier. This is Trump's first sit-down interview as president.
You stated that you will release the files, all of the files, as it relates to the JFK assassination. The moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet, how'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work.
Do you believe that moment, people say to me, they see a change in you? Do you believe you've changed? Is this, for example, increased your faith in God?
Yes.
All these people,
I think he's crazier.
Family members.
More bitter.
Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving in your first time.
He heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it.
You owe me a Coke, media wins.
The option.
And welcome to Hannity, and buckle up for a very special show. After
buckle up, buggeroos.
President Donald Trump is back where he belongs. He is in the Oval Office. Earlier, the president, he did welcome us into the White House for an exclusive first interview in front of the Resolute desk. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet. How'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work. And as you know, I felt that we shouldn't have had to necessarily be here. Could have been done, a lot of work. Could have been, it would have been over. We wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have had the Afghanistan disaster. We wouldn't have October 7th with Israel, where so many people were killed. And you wouldn't have a Ukraine war going on. But with all that being said, I think it's bigger. It's bigger than if it were more traditional.
Only the second time in history.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't have consecutive terms.
Yeah. Well, they say it's historically bigger. I don't know about that. But I can say
nothing about you is historically bigger.
Showed us that the radical left,
little hands, little dick,
and policies are horrible. They don't work. You look at crime, you look at what's gone on at the border, you look at what's going to happen, the crime that's going to happen. But I think we got there just in the nick of time. But we still have you covered better than anybody. We have terrorists in our country by the thousands. We have murder.
You just let another 1,500 terrorists out.
Tens of thousands. We have numbers that came out, 11,000 people that murdered are now free and walking around in our country. And of them, I think 48%, they say, killed more than one person, and they're walking around. They came out of jails from other countries. And, people, they've emptied their jails. I would, if I were the president or prime minister or something of another country, I'd empty my jails right into America, into the United States. Why not? And
Why?
If you look at Venezuela, their crime rate is down now 78%. Because they took their street gangs and they moved them into the United States. And you're seeing that in Colorado and Los Angeles and other
No,
places.
I just don't trust Venezuelan numbers.
Take care of it.
So did Biden really say to you when you came up to the front of the White House, welcome home?
He did.
No, did somebody say that?
He did.
Somewhere.
I don't know. Maybe
You
he
don't remember?
did. I really don't know.
So you.
Oh my God, he did. Hold up. What? That's wild. That's exactly what he said to him. Like, what? Why would he lie about that? Weird thing. Maybe it's just the... Yeah, there it was. I thought he said it a little bit later when he actually walked up there, but no, there it was. What a weird moment. So there you have it. Oh.
America into the United States, why not? And many of them did it. If you look at Venezuela, their crime rate is down now 78% because they took their street gangs and they moved them into the United States. And you're seeing that in Colorado and Los Angeles and other places. And we're going to take care of it.
So did Biden really say to you when you came up to the front of the White House, welcome home?
No, did somebody say that?
He seems really surprised.
I really don't know.
So you left him a letter. It was funny with Peter Doocy, and Peter said, "Oh, Mr. President, did Joe Biden leave you a letter?" He did leave you a letter.
He did.
And you had left him one, but you've never disclosed either one of them.
Well, a lot of people.
Now would be a great time.
You know, it was interesting. A lot of people thought it was sort of like a setup with Peter Doocy and myself, and I have a lot of respect for Peter. But
he didn't leave Biden a letter.
And then I remember that, you know, it's like a custom. You leave it right in the drawer of that beautiful desk right alongside of us. And so I opened it up, and I actually gave the letter to Peter.
And did he got to read it?
I guess. I haven't.
You don't know if he read it?
I just sent it to him a little while ago.
Wait, whoa. What? He said that it was inspiration because he was asked about what the letter said. And he was like, it's inspirational, blah, blah, blah. But then he just said he didn't.
So much substance. You are inheriting a lot of problems, a lot of things that actually scare me. And I want to get to all of that, but I will get to all of that.
All solvable problems.
I agree.
They're all solvable.
Why would he lie about that?
Effort, money, unfortunately, but they're all solvable problems. We can get our country back. But if we didn't win this race, I really believe our country would have been lost forever.
Were there moments, I mean...
Where would it go to?
They threw at you. And I know you signed this declaration about no more weaponization. And we know that the preemptive pardons came up on Joe's way out. But you were facing a civil trial, a criminal trial, conviction, sentencing, Jack Smith, D.C., Florida, Fonnie Willis. I mean, you fought through all of that to get back right here in this office. What people don't know is over there's a little red button you push.
For a Diet Coke.
People think it's the nuclear button, but it's really, you know...
something else.
It's you use it for a different purpose.
For Diet Coke.
The question I have, it was, at any point, did you doubt you would be back here?
So it's a great question. It's something I don't think about. I never really thought about it. I don't think about, gee, will I be back? I just do it. I get it done. I get things done. I'm good at getting things done, and I set my mind to it. As you know, we had a great election in 2016. I had a much better election in 2020. And if I didn't have that election, I wouldn't have run. If I thought that I didn't get the number of votes, and it was reported that I got almost 75 million votes, and that was their numbers. That wasn't the numbers. That was their numbers. That was more than anybody in history, any sitting president had ever gotten. And you lost. Had I gotten like 50 million, or 40 million, or 60 million, I would never have run. But that was like a poll. So, but I had a different attitude. Too big to rig.
Poll came out just in the last 24 hours by Insider Advantage. That's Matt Towery. He nailed 2016, 2020, and 2024. Great pollster, as you know.
Right.
And he gave you a 56% approval rating. He also said of Congress, and I had a town hall with members of Congress last night, that 70% of respondents want Congress to unite behind your agenda.
I watched that show. It was a great show, and you had some great people in the background.
Yeah.
I know every one of them, and they're really patriots. I just saw the love. You know, as the speaker, who is doing a terrific job, the speaker is answering questions, and I saw the acknowledgement and the love they had. And those are tough people behind him. You know, these are not easy people.
There are others that are tougher.
I said, well, I don't know. This is a tough group if they want to be. They're not, nobody much tougher. But they're very unified. I think they're going to do a great job.
But they have a small majority. You went through over 200 since we've got here. And we have breaking news today that we'll get to in a minute. And especially as it relates to the border and some other issues. But you're going to need to do some of these things legislatively. You will probably play the largest role in uniting them both in the House and Senate. Reconciliation, the Senate has very strict, rules governing how they can do it. Do you, one big beautiful bill, two bills, do you care at this point?
I don't care as long as we get to the final answer. I like the concept of the one bill.
The final answer.
One big beautiful, and that's what everyone faces. Actually, it's.
I think you're headed more toward the final solution, aren't you? Oh.
It could be something else. It could be a smaller bill and a big bill. Right. But as long as we get to the right.
I got a big bill for you.
Los Angeles has changed everything because a lot of money is going to be necessary for Los Angeles. And a lot of people on the other side want that to happen. And
North Carolina, too.
Fast. Well, they don't care about North Carolina. The Democrats don't care about North Carolina. What with FEMA is so bad. FEMA is a whole nother discussion because all it does is complicate everything. FEMA has not done their job for the last 4 years.
This fucker is going to mishandle so
hurricanes in Florida,
many
tornadoes,
natural disasters.
You have certain types of leadership. It's really, it gets in the way.
White eggs.
And FEMA is going to be a whole big discussion very shortly because I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. If they have a tornado someplace and if they let that state. Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. 77 out of 77.
It's not just going to be the bird flu bundles.
That's never been done before. I did it 3 times. I mean, think of it. 3 times. Never been done. Ronald Reagan had the record, 56. 56 out of 77. I got 77 out of 77.
White eggs. I don't live in North Carolina anymore. I was just there. My last apartment was in North Carolina. But I am absolutely in the area that was hit by Helene. Maybe not so much anymore, I guess. I've moved out of the area, but when Helene happened, my best friend 10 minutes away was without power for 2 weeks. People died in the county that I lived in. Please don't use the tragedy from my area as some sort of political gotcha. Like, I am 100% supportive of the money that Biden sent to California, and the federal government was here for the people of North Carolina and Tennessee. It's been weird. Here's the thing is that Biden declared an emergency in Tennessee, where I was living at the time, and the governor of the state didn't. Republican governor, Bill, why is his name fucking Bill Lee, did not declare a state of emergency. So Biden already was moving money into the area before Helene even hit.
So you have to love a place like that. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You don't need. And then the federal government can help them out with the money.
What?
The FEMA is getting.
Oklahoma ain't got no money.
And the Democrats actually use FEMA not to help North Carolina.
It makes no sense.
Sheer bullshit.
On Friday, I'm stopping in North Carolina, first stop,
Yeah.
Because those people were treated very badly by Democrats. And I'm stopping there. We're going to get that thing straightened out because they're still suffering from a hurricane from months ago. And then I'm going to go to California.
Will you meet with Gavin?
I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. Look, Gavin's got one thing he can do. He can release the water that comes from the north. There is massive amounts of water, rainwater and mountain water that comes due with the snow, comes down as it melts. There's so much water, they're releasing it into the Pacific.
Wow.
And I told him, it's a political thing for the Democrats.
Joey, good evening.
You said it to him in front of him in 2018.
I said it to him in front of the media and everything else, and nobody talks about it. The media never picks it up. You put it out. I was so happy to see that tape because some people said, is that possible? They have water coming down from the Pacific Northwest, which has a lot of water.
The Pacific Northwest.
That they'd have to let some of it go at some point. They don't need reservoirs. They don't need any. They're spending all this money on these reservoirs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But the reservoirs were empty.
The Shasta people are like, oh, he's going to take our water.
Practicing the science of forestry, which
The
is
sprinklers didn't work in the homes because they had no water. Think of it. We have sprinklers. Think of it with no water. They didn't have any water.
I
The
didn't know you
fire
had
hydrants,
sprinklers in
believe it, hard to believe. The place has sprinklers. It's nice. But you don't want to lose
Are you moist, Oregon guy? I'm sorry. I'm horrible.
Well, I'm glad. It's great to be back. I'm not going to lie.
You know, I've had the biggest people.
John acts like he's living there too.
Oval Office, and they just look and they want time to look. They're looking around. George
amazing.
Washington, Abe, Honest Abe.
One day maybe we could do a tour.
I'm sorry, Oregon gal.
And maybe I shouldn't disclose this, but I will. And it was after the 2020 election. And you asked me a question, and we've known each other for 30 years, so we have a friendship and we have a professional relationship. And the question you asked me, maybe in the end it will be better that if I came back in 4 years. And we talked about history. After World War II, Winston Churchill was thrown out, but they brought him back. Grover Cleveland is the only other American president that did not serve consecutive terms. And my answer to you was, I thought it would be bigger if you came back.
It's turning out to be bigger. And I think one thing is happening is people are learning that they can't govern and that their policies are terrible. I mean, they don't want to see a woman get pummeled by a man in a boxing.
Oh, my God.
They don't want to see men in women's sports, in other words. They don't want to see them, and they don't want to have transgender.
Remember that night the dude that was like a MMA reporter was in here, and he was like, a trans woman broke another woman's face or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that was an orbital bone fracture. It's the most common, or one of the most common injuries in MMA. I think I looked at it was like the third or fourth most common. Like the most common was like an Achilles tear or some shit.
Gender for everyone. They don't want a child leave home as a boy and come back 2 days later as a girl. A parent doesn't want to see that. And there are states where that can happen.
Oh.
They don't want to see.
Oh, I thought it was in response to Moist, ironic.
This is the only group of people they want to raise your They say we want to raise your taxes. You know, if they don't work with us on the Trump tax cuts extending, that would mean it would go back to the taxes. We got the largest tax cut in history. That would mean the taxes would go up more than any tax hike in the history of our country. And normally you'd say that's got to be the easiest negotiation in history, because if they did that, how could they ever win an election? But they'll fight us on that. They fight us on things. It's incredible.
Here, I ran into.
They don't use common sense. In my opinion, the Democrats don't use common sense.
I think common sense won the day in the election.
Yeah, but you know the amazing thing? I'm watching now. Now it's.
These people have no sense whatsoever, common or not.
The election's over, and you see what happened, and it was a rout. I won all 7 swing states, and we won by millions of votes, the popular vote. Millions.
Fucking Bongino.
Nobody can even believe some of the numbers. And how about with African Americans, with Hispanics, with everything, how well we did? Nobody can believe the numbers. How about with youth? I won youth by 36 points. Now, maybe that's because I went on TikTok. I don't know, but I haven't.
TikTok is going to be sold, right?
Because he went on TikTok.
Well, people like
I'll tell
Senator.
you, people want to buy it.
I
People
bet
want
they
to
do.
buy it.
But those that say they know, say, a spying app for the Communist Chinese.
But
the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster at sacrifice.
You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
Yeah, but you can say that about everything made in China. Look, we have our telephones made in China for the most part. We have so many things made in China, so why don't they mention that, you know?
Let me get to
the
some
interesting
issues.
thing with TikTok, though, is you're dealing with a lot of young people. So
they love it.
Is it that important for China to be spying on young people, on young kids watching crazy videos on things?
I don't want China spying on anybody.
No, but they make you telephones, and they make you computers, and they make a lot of other things. Isn't that a bigger threat?
I'm sure that'll be part of your discussions with President Xi, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Let me go to the border. We do have breaking news today. I ran into Tom Homan as I was walking in today. And so far, 308 total arrests, 296 detainees, and the first deployment of military assets to the U.S. border. The deployment includes active duty troops in the National Guard.
Right.
And here's my biggest fear and concern beyond the Iranian assassination squads is we now know 14 million. We don't know how many gotaways. We don't know the total number.
I feel like my Android was made in South Korea.
We have known murderers, rapists. We have violent criminals, cartel members, gang members. Now, I would imagine if you came from Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan and Russia and China and Venezuela, you didn't come here because you want a better life for your children. I would imagine those known terrorists are planning an attack on our homeland.
Why wouldn't they come here for a better life for their children?
You're going to be in this desk, maybe sitting at this desk, or maybe up in the residence, and they're going to call you down in the Situation Room because our homeland is under.
I know, it was like the dude from earlier that was like asylum is for people fleeing actual violence. I'm like, how do you know the people are fleeing actual violence? That doesn't make any sense. How do you know? Especially someone that had lived in another country for 30 years of their life. Come the fuck on.
I would like to be wrong, but when you have known terrorists, you have to believe that they are going to.
Munzer balls. He certainly is. He's everybody's problem. I don't know what you're not getting away with it.
That moment of your entire presidency, that has to weigh on you.
Yeah, it could be. And I know I've watched you for a lot of years, and you actually make one statement before you say that. You say 100% certain.
I do.
That's a pretty big statement.
And then I say, I pray to God I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too. And I won't comment, but I tend to agree with you. It depends. We'll see what happens. Look, we have a lot of great people right now. A lot of great people on this situation.
Great people.
This was a gross miscarriage of common sense to allow people to come in. And I believe the number is 21 million people, and a large percentage of them are criminals all over the world. This is not just South America. This isn't, we talk Venezuela, that's a big abuser, but these are countries from
Iran,
the
Syria?
Congo, countries that you don't even think of. The Congo has emptied their prisons out into the United States. We're not thinking about the Congo, we're thinking about South America. It's much more than South America. But prisons from all over the world have been emptied out into our country by Biden, allowing it to happen. I don't even know if he knew what the hell was going on, but
I don't think he did know what the hell was going on, to be honest with you.
You always like to understand, like in a business, you want to understand.
I agree. The dude was senile. He was gone. He just wanted to be president, but he was surrounded by competent people. You don't know what the hell is going on. And you're surrounded by incompetent people and people that are malicious in their intent. And they want to use government to enrich themselves and destroy the lives of others. So that's why I was on the team Democrat.
Stand the other side. Why do they want something? Et cetera, et cetera. And you figure it out. And there's usually an answer. Almost always. I don't understand, why does somebody want open borders where, and they say the vote. Okay, but I did well with the Hispanic vote. If you're looking at Hispanic. They say they do it because they want to think they're going to stay in power. It's going to be better for Democrats. I don't really believe that. Besides that, they cheat so much. They don't have to do that. They cheat so well. They're very good at cheating. The only thing they're good at really is cheating. But here's the thing.
They cheat so well, they lost in 2024.
Open borders are good. Where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country. Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And
because that's not what's happening.
Watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is two reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country.
Nah, sir, I feel like you just fell out of a coconut tree.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Those are the only two reasons. Sean, who would ask for...
You don't have to like the content you're watching either, Fuzzy Simba.
Pouring in, some of whom, I won't get into it, but you can look at them and you can say, could be trouble, could be trouble. There are people coming in...
There are people with gang tattoos on.
There are people coming in with tattoos.
Says the convicted rapist.
Their entire faces...
I'm sorry, the adjudicated rapist.
You know he's not going to be the head of the local bank.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube.
I think the bankers are more dangerous than any gangster. The bankers are the worst gangster. I was going to check back in with the California fires, but when we checked in earlier, it looked like they had it pretty well contained. It had grown to be like 10,000 acres. But they had no structures were damaged. It was only a forest fire. They were able to get flame retardant around it, so they seem to be in good shape. I was like, oh God, we're gonna have to cover this again. But I do want to, I've highlighted this a couple of different times. One of the most heartbreaking things about the fires is all the pets.
Currently, my team, I think we're well over 400 animals that we personally trailered or took out initially.
Would you be able to check in on this one? She's the one with epilepsy.
Is the house still standing?
There's no house.
So
I'll get our team on it and we'll see what we can do. We'll certainly try. I've seen these guys do remarkable things. Sorry.
Basically just helping reunite owners or just at least get them closure.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
Just came through so fast. It was a lot like Paradise. It just raced through. Maybe we'll go over to Chris Kelly's property because I got to put a trail cam up. That might be good.
I understand why everybody would say it's always necessary to help human beings out. Of course, that's a priority for the police, for the firemen. But a lot of times people, you know, they're at work or whatever, and the animals are left behind. For me, my animal is my child. I know it sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't.
Many, many, many pet owners are the same way.
Yes. Babies.
It's the greatest gift on earth to be of service to other people and to animals.
He is so sweet. And despite his injury, he is purring.
Dr. Kevin here at Palms and Paws. He's been my emergency vet. He brought an organization called Angel Network. It's a bunch of volunteer vets and vet techs that literally come and they do pop-ups in disaster areas.
Hey, that's AC right there.
We've got dietary pet needs covered. We had a huge online pharmacy, Step Up. So anything
I love animals.
you lost in the fires, pet related, we have or we can get you.
Right now, I think it's just been beautiful seeing all the volunteers come together.
Look at that baby.
All of this, the human spirit and the collaboration and the love that we're seeing has been, it's been a tonic for all of us. And it's been a privilege getting to see that. He's a remarkable
He's a little fighter, Mr. Kevin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I should give you something more uplifting to end on, right? Twitch people, I'm going to hang out and listen to music for a little bit. I'll send you over to producer Dave here at the top of the hour. We'll hang out, we'll get a little more high. But let me give you a better animal video to end on here since that one was a little sad, though it was happy. They're reuniting people with pets. Here's your better animal video to end on. Oh, Byronic, are you still here? You missed last night. I think it was last night I played the turtle. You would love the turtle. That was one happy fucking turtle. Oh, look at that smile. Where the replay? I don't remember where I got it from. It might have been Twitter. I'll play it again. I'll play it again tomorrow night. No, somebody was petting it. They was great. It was not a turtle. It was a tortoise, a huge fucking tortoise. It was getting scratches, and it was so fucking happy. I mean, when I say huge, like that was probably like a 200-pound tortoise or some shit. That's a big motherfucker. Maybe not 200 pounds, or either like 100 pounds or so. I love the little face he makes. All right, podcast people, YouTube people, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you get the sack.